This is how to make a simple coffee gelatin dessert. Pour over coffee Gelee takes about 5 minutes to make and a few hours to set. Start by preparing your gelatin. Use 1 sheet of gelatin for 100 milliliters of coffee to create a jelly that will hold shape but not be overset and tough. To fill 3 small 125 milliliter capacity mason jars, you will need 300 milliliters of your favorite coffee, so soak 3 sheets of gelatin in ice cold water for about 5 minutes. This will allow the gelatin to bloom, which is to absorb some of the water to soften it so it can be absorbed into the hot liquid better. Gelatin is very heat sensitive and will dissolve quickly as the liquid temperature rises to the melting temperature of 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So bloom the gelatin just before you start brewing the coffee, and this is the pour over method of brewing coffee using a V60 filter that I use, which takes about 5 minutes too. I lightly roasted Arabica beans from Colombia, but you should use the coffee you like to drink. Heat up a teapot to near boiling and wet the filter paper to remove the paper taste and discard the water. Scale 20 grams of coffee beans and grind them medium coarse. When brewing light roast coffee, the brewing water needs to be very hot to extract all of the subtle flavors from the beans. With darker roasts, you can brew the beans at a slightly lower temperature to avoid over-extracting charred oil flavors that can be overly bitter. You will add the water by weight as well as time. There are a lot of different theories on how much water to add, but I add the water in 5 intervals of about 60 grams of water each. When the coffee has filtered through about 30 seconds or so, I will add the next 60 grams of water until I reach 300 grams total for an elapsed time of about 3 to 3.5 minutes. Finer ground coffee beans and longer intervals for longer brewing times will create stronger coffee. To make sure you have the right amount of coffee, transfer the brew to a measuring device and sweeten to taste. Since this is a dessert, I added a tablespoon of vanilla sugar. Remove the bloomed gelatin from the bowl and squeeze out the excess water. Add the gelatin to the hot coffee and stir it in to help it dissolve. Divide the coffee between 3 small mason jars and allow the gelatin to set in the refrigerator for at least a few hours, but longer is better. Gelee by itself is fun, but adding a little sweetened cream makes it more like a dessert. Place a small bowl on top of a folded towel to hold the bowl in place, and add a few tablespoons of heavy cream, a little vanilla powdered sugar, and whisk until stiff. The gelee can be eaten out of the jar, but for a nicer plated presentation, dip the jar in hot water for a few seconds to melt the outer layer, and then invert the jar onto a plate. Give the jar a little shake to release the gelee, and add a little whipped cream on top. A deliciously jiggly fun treat with a caffeine kick to get you going.